Our favorite love expert, Monique Kelly, is here to help us shift our mindsets around relationships, dating, even friendships. And she's going to be answering some of your juiciest DMs. Then VP of Growth at People First, Nicole Dunger, joins us to unpack the attention economy. She's going to tell us why micro-influencers are outperforming some of the most massive accounts, how authenticity rather than polished perfectionism is being pushed by the algorithm, and actually shaping politics, culture, and even what's showing up on your feed. So your voice matters more than you think right now. Let's dive right in and learn all about it. Monique Kelly is a national television dating expert and host of Lifetime's Married at First Sight specials. And tonight, she's here to help us rethink love and answer your juiciest questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to have you here to talk about relationships, dating, friendships, everything we need to know to really approach 2026 as our best selves. I'm so excited to see you.
So happy to be here. It's been a while.
It's been too long, way
I
too long. We
know.
miss
Yeah.
you.
Heart.
As we head into 2026, you and I were even talking about this off camera. This is the year of the fire horse. That also applies to our relationships. What are you noticing so far about the emotional state of dating right now? What feels different this year for people?
You know what's interesting about singles and dating right now as we enter this year? Singles are really embracing being single. They're unapologetic. And for a lot of singles, they are intentionally single, meaning it doesn't mean that they're not open to relationships and that they're not dating, but they're dating with more intention. They're dating with more emotional maturity and they're dating, wanting to date someone who has emotional availability. So they are very intentional with their dating. It's not just like, let's just get out there and date and just see what happens. It's like, if this person doesn't make sense, I'm not going to waste my time or theirs.
Right. And do you think that that could also maybe come from burnout? Because we see on social media a lot of different posts where people have been talking about being burnt out on things like apps, situationships, mixed signals. Is this also a little bit of a dating fatigue era?
Absolutely. I say this is kind of a new era in dating. Like you talked about the snake shedding of the skin, and now it's the year of the horse and the horse coming in. With dating, people are shedding how they used to date. They are looking at that common denominator in all of their relationships, which is them, and they are making different decisions to make sure that they date differently, they're more successful dating, and also more in touch with what they're looking for. And even, Britt, singles are even embracing abstinence as well because they really want to be in touch with where they are, what they're looking for, and not have anything clouding their judgment.
And on the topic of self-worth and everybody, knowing who they are, knowing their worth in just in life, but also in
Yeah.
relationships, what does that behavior look like? Because I think there are certain behaviors that people can exhibit that really show that they have a lot of self-worth. And then there are some behaviors where people are kind of acting in different ways that come across as not having a lot of self-worth. How does that look like in practice? Because I know we have like there are theories we can tell ourselves, I want to act with self-worth, but what does that look like when someone is behaving from a place of self-worth?
Britt, you are coming with the questions today, girl. Look, let me readjust my glasses with these. They're
I
good
know.
ones.
She's like,
Ah!
well, I've been getting a lot of DMs over at the show,
Yes.
over on Be Zen TV on Instagram. If you guys want to DM with more questions, but I've been getting a lot of relationship questions this year. So yes, I came ready. This is from the people.
Oh, I love this. Okay, so let's talk about self-worth because I find
Okay.
that when it comes to dating, especially with social media, a lot of us practice dating buzzwords where we know the right words to say and what makes sense, but how are we implementing that? Okay, so let's talk about self-worth. The first thing is self-worth is knowing what your dating challenges are, being aware of what your dating fears are. I talked about this on a recent video, even on my page, about acknowledging your dating fears. What are you afraid of when it comes to dating? Are you afraid that it's not going to happen for you? Are you afraid that you're going to have to settle with someone who you're not attracted to? Are you afraid of getting hurt? Are you afraid there's no good men out there? Just your dating fears of where you are right now. saying it out loud, writing it down, and looking at it, addressing it, and then ripping it up because it makes it tangible. Because we all have dating fears as it pertains to relationships that are based on your past relationships. So that's number one, saying them out loud, acknowledging it so you can get through them. That's number one. So dating with self worth is knowing your fears, knowing what you want, being honest with yourself, and going based on the information you are given and not making it up based on how you want it to
Oh my gosh. Okay, that was good. I mean the glasses, I don't know.
end.
The power, your inner loving diva is speaking, Monique. That was so, yes, I love that so much. And I think that's such a good point. Like I think we all are guilty of this in one area of life or another where we
Yeah.
have a fantasy of how we want things to turn out. And so we can sort of keep pushing for things or, and we're blocking our real blessings by chasing our things that are not meant for us. And we're telling ourselves a story. And that's a whole recipe for disappointment and
Yeah.
confusion. And it's just, but that was, oh, I love that. And I love the inner loving diva. I'm going to start asking her many things in life.
Yes. She guides us. She tells us. Sometimes she tells us stuff we don't want to hear, but she is there.
Inner loving diva, what do I do here? I love
Yeah.
it. Amazing. Okay, so let's answer a couple of viewer DMs. So a few of
Yes.
our
Okay.
viewers have directly messaged me and they want to know from you, the love expert, Monique, what they need to do in these situations. So, okay, the
Okay.
first question that we have is I'm just going to read it from them. He hasn't defined the relationship after 4 months. How long is too long? And how do I bring up commitment without looking desperate?
Okay, now it's important. Now, the one caveat I want to say is if you went into this relationship with this man and he told you from the very beginning, I do not want anything serious, I don't want a relationship, I just want to enjoy dating and have fun, that is information. I don't care if you met his mama, his sister, his daughter, his cousins. If he has said that to you from the very beginning, that is information. There's nothing you can do to change that. Like he's giving you that information. And if you chose to move forward thinking it might change with time, that's something you have to look at yourself on, right? However, if
Hmm.
that's so, let's take that off the table. If that was not the case, there's nothing wrong with saying to him, I'm really enjoying getting to know you. I'm not interested in seeing other people. I want to see where this can go and just want to see where your head is. Now, we're not going to ask him, where is this going? Because that will automatically put a man on like, you'll see the skid marks. You're not going to like, where is this going? But you put it from the perspective of, I'm enjoying you. This is how I feel. What are your thoughts? And listen
Hmm.
to what he says. Listen to him. Don't interpret what he says. He's going to tell you what you need to know. And based on that, you'll know how to move forward.
Amazing. Love that. Okay, our next question. We only have time for two, so I'm going to do this other one from someone who's married. My
Oh,
husband and I have been together for 20 years and married 18. I love him, but I feel like he's my third child. I'm always planning everything. Have to ask him to help me around the house, and he never takes me on dates or does anything romantic. I've tried talking to him about this, but nothing changes. I feel like it's a lost cause. Any advice?
oh, remember we were just talking about that when you're in a relationship and you feel like you're always the one planning and handling
Mm-hmm.
things. And let's talk about this because you've
Yeah.
been, first of all, congratulations for being married for that amount of time. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. But the issue is never about what the issue is. The issue is never about the fact that he doesn't take you out on dates. The issue could be more about communication. If you're telling him how you feel and that this is what you want, and he's still not hearing you, he's still not doing it, the issue is never about just the date. It's about the communication. What is the communication with you and your husband? What what are your frustrations? If you express this to him and it's not changing, then that's giving him information. Perhaps it's time for you as a couple to go to marriage counseling and work it out with the marriage counselor. Sometimes you just need that third party to kind of intervene and help you guys communicate, figure out those issues, and see what happens from that. So when it comes to married folks, I like to say if you're at that phase, you don't need to go into a dating expert. I want you to go to a marriage counselor and find out how you can communicate effectively. That sounds like what the issue is.
Hmm. Well, Monique, thank you so much for all of your tips, all of your advice, your mindset tune up. I think it was very effective. Please let everybody know where they can find you, follow you, learn more from you.
I am on Instagram at Cocktails and Confessions. I am also on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. My novel, Reality in Chaos, is on there. And then, of course, on Facebook, Confessions of a Serial Dater in LA, and TikTok, Cocktails and Confessions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Monique.
Thank you.
If you love pop culture and astro analysis, then you need In the Cards and Stars, my weekly podcast where we break down celebrity headlines, pull tarot on the chaos, and translate astrology into real life strategy that you can actually use. Listen to In the Cards and Stars on Apple Podcasts or on my Brit Madrid YouTube channel. Nicole Dunger is the VP of Growth at People First and a strategist at the forefront of today's attention economy. Tonight, she's here to break down how digital campaigns shape culture, influence voters, and impact what shows up on your algorithm. This is one of the hottest topics right now, the attention economy, the algorithm, and how people get messages out there and the impact it has not only on like our society, but on elections and all these things. The only thing that's on par with financial investment or money is really eyeballs and attention.
Absolutely. I think this is where we're seeing everyone get their news, their information. Even when we're linking out to an additional resource to read more, they may not be doing that. We're all spending our time on our devices and trying to understand the world around us from those devices.
100%. Let's talk a little bit about the 2024 election. I'd love to just touch on it because so many people have been talking about how this is the influencer election and that there was some sort of fundamental shift that occurred in social media and the way that that influenced the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I think historically the political space has been pretty behind on new media and understanding how we can integrate within the new media spaces. And in the last election cycle, the certain people and certain groups were really able to execute well on influencer and see how when you have these political conversations online, how much of an impact it makes in our culture. So coming out of that last election cycle, everyone suddenly was like, oh, wait a second. We can do this. We can figure out how to do it, and we can make a real impact.
We're really referring to the role of creators, podcasters, micro influencers. You work a lot in campaigns and strategy and things like that. Will you talk about that and what you would personally love to see?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we're seeing happen online right now and in our culture in general is this craving for human connection. And campaigns can really benefit from that. I think it's a tried and true part of our campaign work is doing that door knocking, having real people go to real people's doors to communicate with them. And digital is kind of becoming the new space for doing that door knocking. I always call it digital door knocking. When you're working with influencers, having them share their personal experiences that can have a real connection to the people we're looking to get out to vote.
How have you guys seen that evolve? Like, because when we were having our conversation the other day, I was super inspired to hear that there's so much of an impact that that actually has. You know, we kind of think of these celebrities and like macro influencers as having all of the pull, all of the impact on the community around them. But really, you know, when you dig into the data, it's kind of the opposite. So will you talk about that more and what you've seen just through your research?
Yeah, absolutely. When we look at creators who have these larger followings, millions of followers, they're reaching such a wide audience. They're reaching people across a number of different states, potentially in other countries. They're really casting a wide net. And these political and advocacy messages might not land with everybody or make sense to reaching those audiences. And a lot of the times, what happens when you partner with influencers as that caliber, you're getting a lot of this broad awareness. You're not getting as specific in your communication, and you're not getting as specific in who you are communicating with. And when we partner with creators who have lower followings, like somewhere around 20,000 or less followers, you see their audiences be much more engaged because they feel that parasocial relationship even stronger. People with 20,000 or less followers, you're maybe focused on a specific niche, your specific perspective, you're getting real, you're getting authentic with your followers, and people really appreciate that. So when creators of that demographic start to create content where they talk about political messages, they speak personally about them, people respond really, really well to that. There's an average 2.4 times higher engagement rate on that content because the audiences are just so much more committed and interested in what they have to say.
I feel like also something that you're saying here is that it's not necessarily like important that you are an expert on like everything political. Like you can have your own niche, your own lane, and then still share your opinions with your audience. And that's what's maybe going to be the only message that reaches those people. Like you never know. That really gives me a lot of hope. I think that's really inspiring because even, personally, sometimes I feel like, well, I'm not as informed on a certain topic as I would like to be in order to speak on it confidently. But I love that we're starting to see that it's more about community, it's about connection, it's about having conversations. Like you don't necessarily have to have all the answers. It's just getting it out there, and starting to have this dialogue. What have you noticed about that perfectionism with messaging and the need for more people to share what they're thinking, what they're feeling in order to connect with some of these messages?
Yeah, I think this is what has been the challenge with the political space being a little bit behind in new media landscape because we're so used to having those carefully crafted messages that we spend a lot of time on, make sure they're exactly perfect. But in the current landscape of social media, like we've been talking about, authenticity is the key. And you don't have to be a specialist, you don't have to have all the answers. But when people are truly being authentic and taking that leap to communicate their perspective, what their everyday life experience is, that's where we see the most success in our programs that we run and even in other programs that we're watching happen across the country. People are looking for that authentic connection. And when things are really scripted, they don't land on social media. And not only because audiences can tell that it's scripted, but also the platforms themselves aren't prioritizing that sort of content. The way that Instagram Reels and TikTok For You page work, they're prioritizing that authentic face to camera, really raw content that they see continue to perform over and over again.
Wow. So the algorithm, like for example, like the Instagram algorithm is like picking up on whether or not this is something that's highly produced versus just somebody talking to the camera.
Yeah, because
Wow.
the way that the engagement is on that content, they're able to tell what the trends are and what people are gravitating toward and want to continue to feed that same style content.
So interesting. Yeah, I mean, even as a consumer, when I am watching something on TV, like I always question, where's this message coming from? Is someone paying for this? It feels sort of stiff or it's sort of boring, because it does feel stiff. And then I'll go over to like YouTube and watch a pretty unscripted, like comedic video with somebody that just kind of makes me feel entertained, relaxed. It's such a different vibe. And I feel like definitely as a consumer, I gravitate also towards more of these off the cuff types of people who are just kind of talking like they're a friend.
Yeah, I also think it's a part of our development of social media and just the internet at large. Really, we were all looking for information about other people's experiences.
Mhm.
What are the reviews on this restaurant? What are the reviews on this trip? Oh, did you try that lip gloss? And we've really elevated into this space of wanting to hear those first person perspectives from somebody live, talking very just point blank about what they're thinking. Maybe they're making a hee hee ha ha joke about it. Maybe they're using an emotional connection to the situation. That's really where we're going as a society in how we engage online and in the media that we consume.
How does media buying, spending, legacy media versus newer media, like how does that landscape look right now?
It's a very complex, lots of moving parts
Yeah.
media
Yeah, it
space
is.
right now. While budgets are starting to grow in the influencer space and people are starting to take those baby steps toward investing in more influencer programs, a lot of the budgets are still going to those, legacy media spaces and places where people in the political environment feel most comfortable.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well that's concerning. I'll be honest. And you actually wrote a really amazing overview of what's going on for People First.
When you integrate influencer content, authentic creator content into all of the spaces where you're running media, that's when you see the best performance because, like we've been talking about, people crave authenticity. So, uplifting some of those smaller micro influencers through some of the louder voices or the bigger, more attention grabbing spaces helps make everything feel very holistic and ingrained together, and then you see that improved performance.
So if we see what works when it comes to strategy, if we see what works, if we're able to look at the numbers, why do you think there's still some resistance? Like I'm really so confused by that.
Yeah, you and me both. Yeah. Getting engaged in the social media space requires a lot of releasing of control, and that's a really hard thing to get comfortable with.
Right. Change is like never easy. And for anyone, I guess for any organization. But I do love that there are people like you who are willing to usher everyone into this new era because we do have to keep up with the times or else we're going to get left behind. The time is now to embrace what's working. And I also think there is a lot of value in not having a right person for a message. If we all can agree on one thing, then why not just respect each other and all get behind that one thing?
Exactly.
You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. People need to hear the messaging from a plethora of different individuals over an extended period of time. Hearing it once from one individual isn't necessarily going to impact them enough to make some drastic change or decide to go out and vote or decide to call their representatives.
So for everyone watching who wants to become more of a voice for causes they care about or more of a leader in their own local community, what are some of your tips for helping to get that message out there and then helping these people to also convert, eyeballs into real grassroots movements or volunteer positions or whatever it is that people are trying to create for themselves in their community? How can they get real traction and movement from your perspective?
I think a lot of what we know about true community organizing, getting everyone to get together and go knock on doors or do the bake sale, it all starts with one person deciding to stick their neck out and say, hey guys, what do we think about X, Y, or Z? And that prompts everyone to think about it and to have conversations about it. The hardest part is taking that leap into a maybe uncomfortable space. I heard someone one time say that you have to be willing to climb Cringe Mountain if you want to succeed.
Isn't that the truth? Oh my gosh, 100%. We just got to be ready to climb Cringe Mountain. And if
Yeah,
we're all doing it together, then, at least we're not alone on the Cringe Mountain.
exactly. And people respect you when you're doing it. They're like, okay, I was really nervous to do that, but I see you climbing Cringe Mountain, so maybe I could be comfortable doing that as well.
So true. A lot of us don't know a ton about politics at this moment in time, but we're learning and that's okay,
Exactly, and we're showing up for our community. This is, exactly what we're seeing in Minnesota with people deciding to speak out in ways that they may have never spoken out on before. They might not be specialists in how we, manage our homeland security, but they know what's right for their community, and they're deciding to speak out about it. And when everybody did that, even though we haven't seen some big, huge, overarching change, we did see a lot of representatives take a moment to say, "Okay, wait, how should we address this. Maybe we shouldn't increase the budget for ICE. Maybe we do need to reconsider how we're approaching it. That is evidence that everybody collectively speaking up together does make a real impact. Even though it's slow sometimes, it works. It really does work.
How do you think about how things change overall?
Yeah, I've been working in politics for so long. I have really had to grow patience and be comfortable with patience. But I think that the process is always going to be slow. I think when we are trying to represent an entire nation of people with so many different perspectives, so many different experiences, you can't expect everyone to be on the same page all of the time. And that is also the beauty of our democracy and the ability that we have to be people who can speak their voices freely.
And so sometimes you're having a bigger impact than you think. That is one aspect of it. I also think that people realizing that their voices really do matter. You may have like 500 followers, 1,000 followers, 200 followers on Instagram, whatever it is. I thought it was really cool to see how in your research, you guys discovered that can actually be 2.4 times like more engagement, 3 times the ROI for a business if they were to invest in you. Like getting the word out to people who really trust you, who really know you. Like you can be a part of something much bigger just by sharing your voice.
Everything comes down to authenticity.
I love it. Everything that you've said has been so incredibly interesting and informative. And I just appreciate you taking the time so much to come talk to us about all this. Will you tell everybody where they can follow you, learn more? Where would you direct people who were just loving this combo and want to keep learning?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody can find me on LinkedIn, Nicole Dunger at People First. That is where I put most of this style material. And then we run a newsletter called Influencer Impact on Substack, where we're constantly sharing all of our data, research, insights into what's happening in the space. So you can also subscribe there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's our show for tonight. If this sparked interest for you guys, please be sure to stay in touch with the TV show over on Instagram at Be Zen TV. Connect with my personal Instagram at Brit Madrid. And if you want to check out my YouTube channel where I host my podcast and I also have full episodes of this show, go over to youtube.com/ at Brit Madrid. Before we go, a quick reminder that kindness is powerful, especially when it comes to animals that can't advocate for themselves. If you've ever considered fostering or adopting, please take a look at the incredible dogs at Dallas Animal Services. New intakes and updates are shared daily by animal advocate dallas.shelter.dogs, making it easy to see who needs help right now. Even sharing a post can save a life. And don't forget about the Greenville Animal Shelter in Greenville, Texas. They don't have a vet on staff or a foster program, so community support truly matters for these dogs. Visit their website, follow their updates, and consider adopting. They regularly have the most precious dogs who simply need to be seen. Your voice matters, your platform matters, and your compassion matters more than you know. I'm Brit. This is Be Zen with Brit. I appreciate you guys watching the show. We air the first Thursday of every single month on WFAA at 1:11 a.m. I hope to see you guys next time.